We've seen that the Fair Trade Tobacco Association will continue their legal action despite President Cyril Ramamphosa announcing that the sale of tobacco and alcohol will be allowed from midnight on Monday. This comes as the country moves to level 2 of lockdown, where the Supreme Court of Appeals had granted the body leave to appeal a July ruling dismissing their application with costs to have the ban on cigarette sales lifted. Joining us to talk a little bit more about the outcome is Chairman of the Fair Trade Tobacco Association, Sinenhlanhla Mnguni. Sinenhlanhla, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us here on Weekend Dawn. Bright and early, just on the back of the announcement that South Africa officially enters lockdown level 2 and the come midnight Monday, and of course the unbanning of alcohol and cigarettes. What is your reaction to the President's announcement?
Look, we welcome the announcement by the President. However, we are cautious at this stage. We are yet to see the published regulations. If one has regard to events of months gone by, the President did make a similar announcement lifting the ban on the sale of cigarettes, and thereafter it was revisited and the ban was continued. So we are waiting for the publication of those regulations, and we're not getting too excited.
And then, so speaking of which, in my introduction, obviously you'd come out to say that no matter what, you're going to continue with the pending court cases, Ari, the judgment regarding that shift to level 2. Just walk us through why. Ultimately it is for your protection and clarity at large, but just give us more clarity on why the need to continue.
Yes, that's correct. Look, the reasons for continuing with the application are, firstly, that our application is premised on the fact that the ban on the sale of cigarettes should never have been implemented, even under lockdown level 5. We have maintained that the ban is ultra vires of the Disaster Management Act, and the minister should not have enacted such a ban. So in the event that we do move back levels, i.e. level 3, 4, or 5, we want the ban to be uplifted. So that is one of the reasons, in a nutshell, why we will be continuing with our court application. There are many other aspects that we can look at. The fact that this is a novel issue of law. The Disaster Management Act hasn't really been tested in as far as the higher courts previously. So yeah, there are many reasons why we will be proceeding with the application.
Sinenhlanhla, just paint us a picture. Ultimately, over the past 5 months, when the lockdown was obviously came into effect, we've seen court battles, we've seen illicit trade. Ultimately, with the banning of cigarettes, we've literally seen the impact of the value chain at large with regards to that cigarette market. Looking at the tax losses that government has incurred, businesses that have had to suffer. What do those figures look like? What does the current scenario look like as trade is set to resume?
Look, the figures are astronomical. On excise tax alone, we're looking at somewhere in the region of about 7.5 billion. If you consider the fact that government collects roughly between 1 to 1.5 billion rand per month in relation to excise tax, and now the ban's been in place for some 5 months. So just that alone should, raise eyeballs. Another fact is the fact that industry has largely been inactive throughout this lockdown period. So the revenue that they would traditionally generate, and the incomes of many South Africans have been put in serious jeopardy as a result of the ban. We know that many along the value chain have had to shut down operations, and it's going to take some time to recover, particularly in light of the fact that the illicit trade in cigarettes has grown exponentially during the lockdown period, and it is going to be tough for legitimate players to be able to fight these criminal syndicates and root them out of the market.
And speaking of which, looking at the recovery mechanisms at place as the market, readies opening when the ban is lifted on Monday midnight, and also just some of the implications they are. Can we expect price inflations? What does it look like for that industry at large?
Look, as things currently stand, I think it will be a return to how things were prior to the lockdown period. Of course, we will have to assess the situation after a couple of months, because we do not know, as I stated earlier on, what the impact of the illicit trade and its entrenchment into the market is going to have on the industry along its value chain. And that is something that I think we are going to have to commence or try to commence discussions with government on, particularly the aspect of law enforcement, because cigarettes are coming through our borders at an alarming rate, and we do not know why government is not able to nip this in the bud. I mean, the busts that we're seeing reported by law enforcement agencies are only a small drop in the ocean and do not even equate to the consumption of a day's worth of tobacco products in as far as what the market consumes. So definitely from law enforcement, we are of the opinion that a lot more can be done to protect the legitimate industry, because ultimately that is to the benefit of the fiscus and the country as a whole.
All right, as that continues, Sinenhlanhla, I'm going to thank you very much for the conversation. We'll leave it there. Chairman of the Fair Trade Tobacco Association, Sinenhlanhla Mnguni, just chatting to us about the court battles, illicit trade, and the ultimate losses along the value chain. This comes in the wake of President Cyril Ramamphosa announcing that level 2 lockdown will ensue come Monday midnight, and we were just unpacking the impact it's had on the cigarette industry at large.